The Unitarian Universalist Church of Ventura, California, presents a homily by our minister, the Reverend Dana Worsnop, titled, Was There Ever Really a Normal? Recorded on Sunday morning, May 10th, 2020.
Good morning and welcome to worship with the Unitarian Universalist Church of Ventura. We are a community of resistance, resilience, hope, and strength, seeking to grow into the fullness, the wholeness of human expression. I am the Reverend Dana Worsnop, joined by a whole team of folks who collaborated to bring this service into being. Here is the lineup of our entire tech team. Today, our director is Brian Fortune, magician is Andy Edgar Beltran, tech support Joe Osborne and Kitty Merrill, and our on-screen folks will introduce themselves as we go along. Just a couple of announcements. Next week, we will begin streaming this service via YouTube instead of Facebook because we found that YouTube is more accessible to more people. Also, if you come to the service a little earlier now, you will see a whole host of announcements rotating on your screen, and it's a great way to figure out what's going on in the church. Also, I remind you to mute your microphone, which somebody out there needs to do. We're helping you out with that when we need to. But mute your microphones and stay muted throughout the service unless you are in a breakout room, and that way we don't hear the background noise of what's going on in your family. So also there is tech support with Joe Osborne. If you need any help, he will post his number on in the chat, so you can give him a call if you need to. Turns out we're having fewer and fewer people need tech support, and it needs to be there if you need it, because the technology trickster gods are always at work. It is so good to be together with you again. Let us enter sacred space.
I'm Worship Associate Sue Brinkmeyer. We're hoping everyone here has a chalice or a candle and something to light it with. Let's all light our chalices together.
On this Mother's Day, we honor those who nurture us as we grow. Yet this service is also about what it means to be normal. What is normal anyway? Has there ever been a person who is completely normal? Well, of course the answer is no. As that wise sage Anonymous has said, no one is normal. There are just a lot of weird people with things in common. So for all the ideals that we hold up about mothers and mothering, that also means there are no normal mothers. There are many best mothers and not a single normal one. There are many wonderful people who love us and help us grow, who mother us, parents, aunts, uncles, family, friends, teachers. And which ones are the normal ones? The ones who remember birthdays? Or teach us to change the oil in a car, or our times tables? Who bake cookies or read all of Harry Potter aloud? The ones who work the night shift or play the trumpet? What about the ones who let you wear slippers in the snow as long as you also still have your parka on? The problem with normal is that no one fits it completely, and most of us are just really kind of weird people with some things in common with the other weird people in the world. And another problem with normal is that if we're not it, if we somehow don't fit normal, it makes you wonder if we are somehow bad or wrong. Trying to be normal can make us feel less than, as a mother or not, as a friend, sibling, as a human being. We can feel less than, and that is no good at all. Mother's Day was invented twice by women of different generations. One created a Mother's Day for peace in a time of war. The other wanted to honor and value women in the time before women could even vote. The first one was Julia Ward Howe, a Unitarian who advocated for peace. The second was Anna Jarvis, whose mother had also been a peace activist with Howe way back in the day. And I seriously doubt that either of those women ever envisioned what we now would call a normal Mother's Day. And what if we carry both of those legacies of peace and honoring and respecting people? What if we carry both of those legacies forward and think of mother as a verb, an action word that is not tied down to gender norms? So what if on this day we honor all those who play a mothering role in our lives? If we do that, we can embrace the power of the overwhelming love that an adult can feel for a child. So just give it up. Stop trying to be normal. Our capacity to love one another is a gift and a grace for ourselves and the whole dang world. Let's not be normal. Let's simply love one another. And one expression of our love for one another arises each Sunday as this congregation gives away our collection to an organization in the larger community or to funds that help people within our own congregation. We are now doing these donations online, and you'll see the link on the next slide, which will also be posted in the chat as a direct link that you can click upon. Today, our offering goes to Ventura Homeless Prevention, which keeps people in their homes by paying the rent when they are temporarily unable to pay it themselves. Here is what they say about their work. March began normally enough for Ventura Homeless Prevention. We helped a disabled woman who had been forced to spend much of her rent money replacing the battery in the wheelchair that is her primary mode of transportation. Also, a single mother of 2 youngsters faced eviction because she had missed 2 weeks of work due to illness and had no sick leave to help see her through. A young couple got behind on bills due to bills from a recent surgery, and then came COVID-19. The Ventura City Council luckily, blessedly passed an emergency ordinance temporarily stopping all evictions, and the normal operations for Ventura Homeless Prevention were put on hold. Yet we know that once that moratorium is lifted, there will be a surge of people unable to pay the rent that they missed. And so our donations today will mean that Ventura Homeless Prevention can help more of those people when that time comes. Please give generously as you always do. So as I said earlier, there is no normal. Okay, except for the town of Normal, Illinois. And just for the record, there is also a Hell, Michigan. Having grown up in Michigan, Hell, Michigan featured in many of my childhood jokes. So while there is no normal, societies have always had norms that guide behavior, and yet somehow we have, I don't know if it's just our modern culture or this is a human universal, that we have acquired this notion that there is such a thing as normal, and more often than not, if there is a normal, we know we are not it. Although it is easy enough to imagine that everyone else is normal. And that's where the issue comes in, because normal can become a kind of tyranny in our lives and in our larger culture, because it creates in-groups and out-groups, which makes it far too easy to dehumanize people, making it easier to exclude, ignore, oppress, do violence to those who are deemed outside of the normal. And yet, I want to live in a world where there are lots and lots of ways to be a family. Lots of ways to mother and care for one another, knowing that all are welcome amongst us, no matter how afraid or brave or fragile or wise. In this time of pandemic, many people, I've heard lots and lots of people talking about how they're yearning for our lives to go back to normal. Yet there are two things that really can't work about that. One, of course, there never was a normal. And even if there was a so-called normal, secondly, the question arises, was that normal really ever so great? That so-called normal is a world where a Black man out for a jog can be followed by armed white men in a truck. And when they confront him with guns in their hands and he resists, the white men can shoot him in quote unquote self-defense and not be charged with a crime until video evidence appears. I don't want to live in that kind of normal. And to tell just a little bit of a story about my past, I once dated a man who was a Republican. He was also smart and he made me laugh. Although it also ended pretty quickly, right after our first discussion of sensitive topics, in particular LGBTQ rights. He thought that all our societal ills would be solved if we could only get back to 1950s normalcy. Wouldn't that be great? Well, actually, no, I told him. There were all kinds of wrong in those times. LGBTQ people were mostly deep in a closet with the door shut tight because it was actually illegal to be LGBT or Q. I don't want to live in that kind of normal either. In our times, there is an upheaval on so many levels of our culture. There are so many norms being questioned and changed. And we are expanding our understanding of humanity, embracing a wider and wider spectrum of human expression. And I love living in a world where we know that gender is not binary, it's not either or, that gender is actually a continuum where human expression becomes fluid and can even move and change, where there is a rainbow of colors to brighten our lives. I want to live in a world that is neither the old or a new normal. I want to live in a world where we embrace an ever-evolving understanding of life, human life and beyond. As activist and poet Sonia Renee Taylor has said, we will not go back to normal. Normal never was. Our pre-corona existence was not normal, other than that we normalized greed, inequity, exhaustion, depletion, extraction. We should not long to return, for we can yet stitch a new garment, one that fits all of humanity and nature. None of us ever wanted to live in that kind of normal. And undoing that kind of normal was our work long before this pandemic. And it will be our work whenever and however we find our way through this disruption. For we can still stitch a wonderfully colorful garment, weaving our bright threads of beauty and justice and love, making new garments that do fit all. And all we need for this is love. And I adore knowing that because of Little Richard, we got a whole host of musicians, including the Beatles, who told us that all we need is love, who then inspired another song that children all over the world sang to us today. There is no going back to a simpler time. No time was ever that simple anyway. We will never eradicate human folly, meanness, or hatred, yet we can continue our work of creating more love now and into an ever evolving, learning, and growing future, where love is what we need and will give us the power for all we need. Amen. May it be so. So now I invite you into a time of meditation. Take some moments and settle into your sacred center. Breathe. Think about the ways you have felt normal and the ways you have never felt normal, and consider your love and how it serves the world. A silent meditation. Holy One, gracious God of many names and no name, and mystery beyond all naming, Spirit of life, which dwells within and among and beyond us this day and always, may we never seek only the simple, the comfortable, the world that we know. May we always seek to expand and our loving hearts to embrace new expressions, new ways of being human, knowing that all are welcome and all are worthy. May we always honor all who have helped us learn and grow, those who have mothered us in the various forms those mothers have taken in our lives, the ways we have been cared for and nurtured. May we also hold in our hearts those whose mothers were less than the best. Those mothers who, out of their pain and sense of wanting and longing, could not be all we needed. May we honor all who have been unable to be mothers in all kinds of different ways, those who have never been mothers. And in so doing, may we expand that definition and know that we have all been loved and nurtured and cared for by someone. And may we be grateful. And may all those who are ill find healing. May those who are in despair find hope. And may all those suffering conflict and war throughout the world, may they and we know peace. Amen. And may it be so.
Please join Reverend Dana in extinguishing your chalice at home. We extinguish the chalice, but not the light in our hearts, the warmth of community, or the assurance and goodness we have found here together. Those we carry into our lives until we gather again.
We hope you've enjoyed listening to Was There Ever Really a Normal? Presented by the Reverend Dana Worsnop, recorded on May 10th, 2020 for the Unitarian Universalist Church of Ventura, California.